My name is Gabby, and this is Yappy Hour. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in here for episode number 2 of Yappy Hour. Got a very exciting, very special, very highly requested guest, probably the most requested person when I asked who you guys wanted to hear on the pod. We are here with my fiance, Nick.
The one and only.
So I'll let Nick say hi for a minute. But before we do get started, Bloom Energy was nice enough to send us some of their new energy drinks. These are their sparkling energy with prebiotics. I wanted to do a little taste test with Nick because he has not tried this yet. So I've tried these. I've had a couple of them. This is the strawberry watermelon, probably my favorite flavor. So I wanted to have him try it here live. Let us know whether or not you like it. So out of 10, let us know how much you like it. First impression.
I'm not really an energy drink guy, but that's actually really good. I'd give it a 9.2.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised. You're
Yeah.
a tough critic. I feel like.
Yeah, like I really don't drink any energy drinks, and I don't like the taste of any of them, but I like the taste of that
Tastes
one.
really good, right?
Yeah, I actually do like that a lot. That is something I would drink.
Yeah, it has like apple cider vinegar and all sorts of great stuff in there. But if you have not tried Bloom's new energy drinks, 10 out of 10 recommend. Find these at your local grocery store, gas stations, anywhere where you get your energy drinks. You can find these on the shelf. So, but thank you for joining me here today. Were you excited to be on the pod?
So excited to be the first guest.
Yeah,
A lot of
first
pressure,
guest.
but
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Nick definitely was a big part of me starting this podcast. He was very supportive. He was just giving me the little kick in the bum that I needed to get the ball rolling because obviously, like I said in my previous episode, this was something that I've always wanted to do. It was always kind of like a dream, you know, a lofty dream somewhere up there in the stratosphere of someday. And I feel like you really gave me the push to like just start it.
if there's one thing you can do well, it's yap. So got to give you an outlet for that.
It's because he was sick of hearing me yap all day long. He was like, go get
No.
an outlet. Go yap to the camera.
Never.
Okay, so a couple things we're going to talk about this episode, kind of just a quick overview. We're going to talk a little bit about our story, how we met, how we came to be engaged 9 months after meeting, kind of an overview of our relationship story, and just about single mom dating as well. I feel like I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about my experience dating as a single mom. We're going to ask Nick from his point of view of being a man dating a single mom, like what his experience was, because I think he probably has a lot of good insight from the male perspective. And then we're going to just kind of chat about, you know, our upcoming plans, things we have going on this year, some really exciting things happening. So let's get into it. So first things first, bring us back to pre-Gabby, even before you met me. Bring us back to your dating journey since you've lived in Florida, and kind of just bring us up to speed, up to the moment of like where you were, what space you were in when you met me.
All right, so originally from Pennsylvania, moved to Florida in December of 2023 after quitting my corporate job that I hated and did some things and moved down here to Florida because one of my best friends lived down here. And that is really once I moved down here is the first time I honestly ever really tried to date in my entire life. Was single my entire adult life until then. And
You
so,
never had a serious relationship.
never had a serious relationship.
Never had somebody who you called your girlfriend.
Never. I'm 32, about to be 33. By the time you listen to this, I'll be 33, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, just never thought I'd get married. Never thought I'd have kids. Just wasn't something that I wanted growing up, and so I just never put forth the effort of dating somebody because I knew dating leads to or should lead to marriage. So until that started to switch, is when I started to want to date. I really didn't date at all until I moved down here. I don't know, 10, 12 first dates in the 9 months.
Any second dates or any?
Maybe like 5 second dates, then 2 third dates, and maybe 1 fourth date, but
Okay.
never got
Just
further than that.
Fizzled out.
Yeah. Whenever we met, I was like, I don't know, I was pretty frustrated with dating in general. I was using the apps mostly, and
Yeah.
apps are good and bad. Good, we met on there, and that's led to this, which is amazing, but can also be frustrating.
Yeah. Do you feel like you had a very clear, like, did you know what you were looking for and like nobody was reaching that? Or do you feel like you were kind of just lost and like nothing felt right?
I knew what I was looking for. Like, I wanted to be serious and have things go fast, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Um, and I would say some people, like once I like stated those intentions, they weren't aligned with that, which is
Yeah.
why some people didn't work out, and then others didn't work out for other reasons. But I
Like, you
think,
think some of them were just like dating to date, like didn't really like want to get married soon or have a family.
yeah, dating date and just like, again, we went faster than I was expecting my relationship to go, but I wanted it to be fast, and they were thinking, 2-3 years of
Yeah.
before marriage, where anybody I wanted to date, it was going to be somewhat quick.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we met on the dating app Hinge. My experience dating as a single mom, especially like knowing that I had a young son, like I started dating when Gray was 4 or 5 months old, I think. Yeah. So it was like almost exactly a year of dating before I met you. And in that time, there were a couple kind of somewhat serious people that I dated and went on, 6 or 7 dates with, and thought that maybe it would go somewhere, and then it didn't end up working out for whatever reason. But I will say, like, dating apps as a single mom, like, that was the only way that I could date. Like, I didn't have free time to just like be out and about doing social events or being at the bars and like places where you would meet single people your age. I feel like I was always with my son, especially since I was a solo parent. Like, I didn't get weekends off, nothing like that. So he was with me 24/7, and like dating apps was the only way that I could meet people. So like you said, obviously there are so many pros and cons to dating apps. Like, you have to sift through a lot of the bullshit, but it was so worth it for me as a single mom because that was the only way that I could meet people. Like, I think every serious somewhat relationship that I had during that time was somebody I met off a dating app. I think only like one person I like somewhat dated was like a friend of a friend, or somebody set me up with their brother kind of thing. But I would say for most single moms, like, I recommend it. I think being on a dating app is a great way to meet people.
Yeah, I recommend it as well. Like I said, it can be frustrating, but it increases your opportunity to meet people that you would never meet in your day-to-day life. And
I think the most important thing is just to go into it so intentionally, because you can get very overwhelmed with like all these people messaging you, all of these people like you, and all of these things. You get asked out on so many dates that it can kind of like, it makes your head spin a little bit, where it's like, oh, wait, there are so many options. But I think to be so intentional and know, like, this is what I want, and if you are not checking these boxes, like, no,
Yeah.
I think that's really important to kind of filter out the people who maybe aren't as serious, who maybe don't want to get married and have kids. Like, for me as well, safety wise, like, I did not put on my profile that I was a mom, which for a lot of people I've found is very controversial. Like, there are some guys who find it shady or think that you're not being genuine, or that for some reason, you're trying to hide that, I guess. For me, it's always been about safety for me and my son, where I know that there are a specific set of men who want to date single moms because they think that you have low standards. They think they can get away with more. They think that they can treat you like shit. And because, well, it's better than being alone. She's been doing it 100% alone this whole time. If I come in and give her 20% effort, she's going to be thankful because it's better than the 0% she's getting right now, right? Like, there are men with that mindset that think it's like an easy catch. You have lower self-worth maybe and lower standards. So I was always of the mind of like, I'm not going to broadcast and put a target on my back and say that I'm a single mom, because there are weirdos out there. There are people with bad intentions. And so for me, it was more important to like meet the person, make sure they had good intentions, meet them, make sure they're a legitimate person, go on a first date, and then have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. You told me right after our first date, and I didn't think it was shady, or I'll say whenever you first said it, I didn't quite understand why you wouldn't do it, but after you explained and like made sense.
Yeah.
And so I never thought it was shady or anything like that.
So from your perspective, obviously we went on our first date, it was great, you felt connection, and then when I kind of dropped that bomb on you, like, kind of walk me through how that felt for you. Like, what was your experience with that?
Never thought, I guess, I would date a single mom. It wasn't like anything I was against per se, but just, again, didn't think that would be.
So I'm the first person you've ever dated that had kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And, or like even like went on a date with, or anything. And, I responded back instantly that it wasn't a issue and wanted to go on a second date. And for me, it was like, because like being a dad at this point in my life was like one of the things I looked forward to most.
Yeah.
Obviously I sped everything up sooner than expected, but like, again, being a dad was one of
like your top goals.
Yeah, one of my top goals in life at that point. And so it really didn't affect the decision one way or another, at least to continue to date and see where it may go.
What do you think? What was the reaction of your friends and family when you told them that you were dating somebody who had a kid?
I mean, everybody was shocked. Going again from the single my entire life to not just, I mean, they were one shocked that I was in a relationship at all. That was, in of itself, big news. But to be in a relationship with somebody with a kid, I don't think anybody would have guessed that.
Yeah. Did you just like drop it on them like I have a girlfriend, or did they know we were talking and seeing each other like up into that moment?
Everybody was a little different.
Okay.
Some of the close friends, like I told after our first or second date that I liked you and was excited about what it might turn into.
Yeah.
And then other people would just be like, once I knew it was something, I don't even know if it was all the way until we first, officially became boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah. At what point did you know that it was like a sure thing that like we were going to date and be boyfriend, girlfriend?
I knew I was going to marry you after you made that blanket for Ledger. So that was like 3 weeks.
That's crazy.
Maybe like a month.
I made one of those tie blankets. You know, those like that material that's like soft that you can buy that people like make tie blankets out of. He has a dog named Ledger, and his dog is a boy and had this like pink blanket that had come with, because you adopted him, right? Yeah. So when he adopted this dog from the like Humane Society or whatever, they had given him this blanket and it was like pink. And I'm like, I always thought his dog was a girl at first because he had like pink blankets and pink things. And he corrected me. He was like, oh no, he's a boy. And I was like, poor boy. Like, why does he have a pink blanket? And so immediately I'm like, I'm going to make his dog a blanket. Like, he deserves to have a manly blanket. And so I like went to the fabric store, got like a black plaid type thing and made him a tie blanket and just gave it to him as a gift. But for me, it was after you met my son. Like, I think I like had high hopes, but I kind of kept that part of me reserved because I was like, I want to make sure that you two are a good fit. Like, it's a good fit for him, because as a single mom dating, like, you're not just dating for yourself, you know? And I think that's also why my standards were so much higher. And people get so upset about that. They're like, you're a single mom now. Like, why do you think now you deserve more? Why do you think now, like, you deserve to have higher standards? But for me, it's because my child is involved. Like, even though I wouldn't choose better for myself, obviously, at some points in my life, I've, not done so. For him, it was so much more important to me to have the high standards and make sure, like, I may have made a mistake with the person I chose to be his father, but I'm not going to make the same mistake with the person I choose to raise him with. He deserved to have a good father figure in his life. And I knew that, like, again, I'm not only dating for myself, but for him as well. So that was always in the back of my mind. Like, guys that I would go on dates with, like, sometimes I'd have a great connection with a guy and he'd be so fun and, off the cuff and all these great things. But I would put myself in the mindset of like, is this the kind of person who I could see helping me raise my son? Like, if I raised my son and he turned out exactly like this man, would I be happy? And I would think to myself, no. And so I would cut things off with him immediately. Like, even though we had a great connection and all these things, if I truly could not see myself being a proud mother, if my child turned out exactly like him, I would not continue to date that person. And I feel like when I met you, I definitely felt like I would be proud if my son turned out just like you, because that's what it's like to raise kids, right? Like, they're going to pick up your habits. They're going to pick up like all of those things. You are the person raising them. You're going to turn out very similar to them. You're going to have similar morals and all of these things. When we started to get to know each other more and spending more time together, I just like knew it just like felt like such a good fit.
Going into a relationship like that is like knowing, just to what you said, like, you're not just dating the mom, you're becoming a father, and knowing all the responsibility that comes with that. Again, just to like think about myself, even probably 3 years ago, a year ago, like 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been in a position to feel comfortable enough to step in and like take on that responsibility again if we met.
But I also don't believe in that. Like, people say that like, oh, it's the right person, it's just the wrong timing. Like, I genuinely believe that if that was the right person for you and if God was putting that person in your life, he would do so at the right time if you were meant to be with them, And I think about that too. Like, if our paths had crossed at any point in the last 5 years, I think we would never have been together. And people like get upset about this. This is something I've talked about online, but like people get really upset about the taxi cab theory. Have you ever heard of the taxi cab theory?
I think so.
It's basically about like love. They say that women marry the man who they love the most, and men marry the woman who's there at the right time when they're ready to get married. And it's called the taxi cab theory because men just, it's like calling a taxi. Like, when they're finally ready to get married, they'll just call a taxi. The first one that shows up is the one they get in. Whereas for a woman, they like wait for the right car, basically.
Yeah.
And people get really upset about that. And they're like, oh, they don't marry the right woman. They just marry whoever's ready when they're ready. And it's like, well, why would you want to get married to somebody if you aren't ready? Like, I would never want to marry a man who isn't ready to get married. You know, like I would never want to force somebody into that decision or be with somebody who's not ready or wait around for 5-10 years until you are ready. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think people get a little bit too upset about that because I'm like, I 100% in the taxi cab theory. Like like I said, if I had met you 5 years ago when I was single and in my party phase way before I had my son, we probably would have never dated or gotten married. And even when my son was younger, when I was dating, but I wasn't like 100% in a healed place. Again, if we had crossed paths, I don't think that it would have worked out. So it truly is God's timing. Like he put you in my life when I was 100% finally open and ready and my heart was healed and I was ready to move on and have a new relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say the right person, wrong timing just means wrong person.
Yeah. And if they're the right person, they would come back at the right time as well. You know, like I'm not saying you can't meet somebody when you're young and you're not ready and then you like reconnect later, because obviously you have friends who've done that, who like dated in high school and then like went off and lived their lives and had college and all of these things, and then they reconnect and get married, which is great. I just don't believe in the fact of like, oh, that was the love of my life, but it was just the wrong timing kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in that. Yeah. So as somebody who has dated a single mom, what is some advice that you would give any man who was thinking about dating a single mom or was open to the idea? Like, what's something that you learned that you wish you had known before you started dating me?
I think you have to understand, and I think this may be where like not having a previous relationship ever has helped me a little bit, where like when there's a kid involved, he's going to be the main responsibility and like the main focus. And so not that you take a backseat per se, but you're very much in the sidecar.
Yeah.
And so just like don't expect or even want to be like the main focus of attention and get all the attention. Like you have to be ready to start sacrificing, because like if you're going to continue the relationship and eventually get on, like the relationship is sacrificing for the kid.
I feel like you went into it always knowing that Gray would be the priority.
Yeah.
Like even over our relationship, like if he needed me, you know, kind of thing. But I think that the reason why I would agree that a lot of guys like aren't cut out for that, because they do want to be the priority. They want to feel like they're always the one chosen almost. And I think that also comes from like an insecurity. Like I feel like you were very secure in our relationship, like from very early on, where you didn't feel the need to constantly have to have my attention and love and time 24/7. You were kind of like, I'm good. Like you're fine. Take care of him. Like I'll be here when you're ready. And I really appreciate that. I feel like, to your point, if you're going to date somebody who has children, you have to accept that like you're not going to be the number one priority. And you shouldn't want to be, because I would say that any woman who has children and makes their relationship the number one priority over their kids' wants and needs is a bad mom. And like, why would you want to date a bad mom, especially if you want to grow your family? Someday that's going to be your kids, right? And you would want her to be a good mom and to prioritize her kids and to put their well-being above all else, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of the catch-22, where I've seen guys get mad and be like, don't date a single mom because you'll never be the priority. Like you'll always be second best. And I'm kind of like, okay, but what happens when you have your own kids together? Would you still want her to always choose you and like leave her kids in the dust? Like I understand it's not your biological child, so it's hard to put yourself in those shoes. But if you want to grow your family and have more kids, like surely you would want her to be a good mom. Surely you would want her to choose being at home with her kids rather than being out at a bar with you partying until 2 a.m. Right? Yeah. Like it's just such a double standard, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at everything early on in that relationship, is like, don't even think about her as like your girlfriend or whatever. Like you need to think about her as the mother of your child or just any child, and like
the family.
Just, put her in that frame rather than, again, this new girlfriend frame.
Yeah.
And just having that perspective or lens on everything can give you clarity around like, am I willing to not be the priority?
And I feel like that was a big quality I looked for in guys that I dated, was like patience. Like I was an hour late to our first date, and it was because at the time, because of my son, he was having a hard time going down to bed for the night, and like several things happened. I was like late home from work, like all of these little things. Even from our first date off the jump, knowing that he was so patient, like sat there with a smile on his face even when I showed up an hour late to our date, no questions asked, was just happy that I was there. That was like the immediate like first green flag for me, where I was like, there's gonna be a lot of this, like just like realistically, like being a single mom, being a solo parent and trying to date, it's like you have to be so patient because, yeah, we might have a date planned for the past 2 weeks, and then the day comes and my son wakes up and has a fever, or he throws up, or, something happens, right? And again, he's always going to be my priority. So, of course, I'm going to cancel the date. I'm going to rain check. And I think it takes a certain amount of patience to be in a place where you're okay with that and accepting, and just like, you have to have that mindset, like you said, of like, this is my future wife. Like, we have all the time in the world. It's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal if we skip a date, or I don't see her for a week, or she's an hour late, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to have so much grace for that person.
Yeah. And you just have, to your point of like being secure in yourself, of just not taking things personally along those lines, of just expecting everything to be about you. And if something is canceled, it's not because she doesn't want to see you or whatever. It's just like there are other more pressing concerns, and so not taking that personally. And
so you've never had a serious relationship. First one and done.
One and only.
One and only.
Make them count.
Did you ever feel some type of way about the fact that like I had previous relationships or ex-boyfriends, or I had been in love before? Obviously I had a child with somebody. Like, did any of those things ever make you feel, I guess, insecure or upset or anything? Like, what was your perspective on that?
Honestly, I'm sure there was times of it, like very small instances, but you just have to be realistic with life. And I understood that anybody that I meet is going to probably have past relationships, and to the extent of what they were would all vary. But someone like myself, an anomaly, and like honestly, I don't even know if I'd want to date somebody like myself who never had a relationship. I don't know
the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be a good thing. And so no, I don't think I've ever felt like overly insecure about any of those things. And with yourself at the very end, like, am I okay with that?
Yeah.
And like, is that a big deal to me? And it wasn't. And you just have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Do you think it wasn't a big deal because it was me and you like loved me so much? Like, do you think if there was a different single mom that you had gone on dates with and maybe you didn't feel as strong of a connection, like, would you have been as open? Yeah, I guess that's my question, is like, would you have been open to dating somebody who had kids, or was it just specifically because it was me and I was the right person?
I'm sure there was, there's kind of like levels to it, I guess, where like you were a no-brainer, where if I didn't feel like such a strong connection, I probably would have said no. Okay. Other people might have been somewhere in between, of like maybe would have gone on a few more dates, but if I didn't feel the connection still, or like that might have been like subconscious in the back of my head, been like an easy out for people that I didn't feel strongly about. But I think overall, just like the fact that it was you and how strong I felt about you, that it was never a question or never a doubt.
I remember being so nervous to tell you, because I'd had that conversations obviously with like several guys before, and like 9 times out of 10 it went super well and they were super respectful one way or the other, which I did not ever feel entitled to have somebody date me because I had children, and I would never want somebody to date me when I had a child if they were not 100% sure that they were okay with it. Like, there were guys that I would go on like 1 or 2 dates with, and we would have that conversation and they'd be like, well, I don't know, like, I feel like I'd be open to it, like, I really like you and want to get to know you, so like I'd be open to it. And I would be like, well, I just don't think it's a good fit then, because I didn't want to date somebody who was open to it, because I feel like you said, it's an easy out. So if you're like, maybe, like, I'm not going to invest my time in being together for the next 2-3 months, and then you'd be like, oh wait, actually this is too much for me, like I took on too much. And so for me it was like either a hell yes or it was a hell no. And I think when I told you, obviously, that I was a parent, we had that conversation, you were just like, immediately, like, your response, I could probably go back and find it, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were just like, that doesn't change anything, like, that doesn't change the way I feel about you. I still really like you and I want to continue to get to know you. Thank you for telling me and being open, sharing that with me. But like, what time can I see you tomorrow? You were just like it literally was a non-issue, which I feel like most guys kind of had more of a pause almost, where they're like, oh, actually, I really like you. Like, I don't know, like, I'm open to it. I just kind of wasn't expecting that. Like, not sure if I'm in a good place to be a stepdad kind of thing. And so I did like really appreciate that. Like I said, it was such a non-issue.
Yeah. It really comes down to just like the idea of, can I love a child that is not biologically mine enough to do all the things that you're going to have to do for them? Yeah. And I don't really like the word sacrifice, but just like make the quote unquote hard decisions of giving other things up and rearranging.
It's not easy to go into dating with a toddler involved, a 1-year-old. I will say, obviously, this is my first time ever dating somebody when I had a kid, because you are my one and only relationship I've had since I've had him. And it is like worlds away from the relationships that I've had in the past. And it's gotten so much deeper, so much quicker, because we are put in this position where it's like, you can't be in the honeymoon phase. Like, I had a lot of people message me and be like, why would you get engaged so quick? Like, you're still in the honeymoon phase, like all of these things. That was not the case for us. Like, I feel like 1 month after living together, we were very far out of the honeymoon phase. Yeah. Like, it's not all fun and games and fun dates and like la-di-da, we can do whatever we want and like all of these things. It's like, this is the hard reality of like, we live together, kind of navigating that, like home chores and who's going to do what and paying the bills and these financial conversations. Like, I feel like we had a lot more serious conversations very quickly on. And then obviously with parenting as well, like it is not all sunshine and rainbows. Any of you who are toddler parents know this. There's a reason why a lot of people's relationships kind of die or like take a back seat during the baby phase of like having young kids, because it's difficult out here. It's hard, you know? And I think like that's all we've ever known. Like we've never known being together without being in that phase. Like, we've never had the honeymoon phase. We've never had it just be us two where we could do whatever we wanted and stay up until 5 a.m. because like we've got a toddler waking us up at 6:30. So
if we're lucky, 6:30.
It's definitely a lot different going into a relationship, but it also made us, I feel like it bonded us together so much quicker as well. Like, this is like by far the deepest relationship I've ever been in, but it's also the shortest amount of time. Like, we got engaged within 8 months. I've never obviously gotten engaged before. I've never made it to that point of even trying on rings with somebody. We tried on rings like 5 months into dating, 5 or 6 months into dating, where I've had relationships that have gone on for years and we never even talked about rings. So it's just a different game and it's just a different ballpark. I feel like unless you're in it, you never truly will understand it. But that's why comparison just like it's so important not to compare past relationships with current relationships, or even like between people. Like, I have friends that have been in relationships for 7-8 years and they're just now getting engaged, whereas obviously months in we're getting engaged. So it's just so different. Everybody's timeline is their own, and every relationship is so different.
I think our honeymoon phase was the 2 weeks where I was away after we first met. And we just talked on the phone.
Talked on the phone for like 8 hours every day.
Yeah, I think that was our honeymoon phase.
Even at our engagement, like, I haven't told this online, but when we got engaged, Nick had this whole beautiful thing in a rose garden set up, and my son was involved in it. He had a shirt that said, "Mommy, will you marry Daddy?" And as Nick gets down on one knee, my son's here the entire time throughout the entire engagement of like him trying to say his piece, right? Trying to ask me to marry him. My toddler is literally yanking at my dress, being like this, "Water, Mommy, water, thirsty, Mommy." Like, the entire time I'm like, "Okay, baby, we'll get you water." Back to Nick, and he's like, "You're the love of my life." And then Gray's like, "Water," and Nick's like, "Spend the rest of my life with you." And I turn, and Gray's like, "I need water." Like, that was the proposal. Like, don't get me wrong, would not change a thing. It was so magical, and like, honestly, just such a funny memory that we're gonna look back on. Like,
God.
that just like,
want it any other way.
I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. It's so us, and it's so funny. But in the moment, I was like, it was almost like in The Office, like, cut to the camera and be like, don't ever date with a toddler. Do not ever get engaged with a toddler, because this is what you're going to deal with. Like, the tornado of parenthood, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it any other way.
I can only imagine how our wedding's going to go with him just being a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
But gotta love it. Toddler boy mom, what are you going to do? You know, love him to death. So obviously our relationship is a lot different than I would have ever imagined. Like, our engagement, like, I never imagined I would have a toddler at my engagement someday when I got married. I never imagined I would have a child at our wedding, but in a lot of ways it's such a blessing, I feel like. Like, I try to see the pros and cons, and I feel like the pros of it is like how special that we get to have our son at our wedding. Like, how special that he's part of that memory. He's going to be in all the photos. Like, I would imagine our first dance, he's going to be part of, like, all of those special moments. Like, it just feels so special that he gets to be part of it.
It's all a blessing if you look at it that way.
Yeah. God's plan.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is, "I make plans and then I hear God laughing." Because I feel like the plan that I have for my life, I would have never imagined that I would be sitting here today with a 2-year-old son, newly engaged to a man I met 9 months ago, and like here in Florida. Like, every single turn that my life has taken that has like truly, God bless the broken road, led me to this moment. And I am so happy. Like, God knew better what was best for me, because I am so happy and content and I love my life. but I would have never chosen this path for myself, you know? So like it truly was just like trust, like just putting my trust in God and knowing that he was going to blow the sails and take me where I was meant to go.
Yeah. The another thing for me was like whenever I was dating, like one of the most important things for me was trying to determine what type of mother the woman would be. And so if, you know, someone's single, you're kind of guessing. And, you know, I do have a lot of friends with kids, so she would get taken around them, but not having to guess at that was so amazing.
It's so true, because people, it's like a gamble. Like when you love somebody and you marry them, like you don't know if they're going to be a good dad. You don't know if they're going to be a good husband. Like you hope that they are, but I mean, I even have friends that have gotten married and become a parent, and like their husband sucks. Like he is literally like at the golf course every weekend, is never around, is not helpful, is not hands-on, like it's just very kind of just like at an arm's length, and she's just in the trenches by herself. Always like, that will never be me. Like that will never be my future. Like I want the dad who's down on his hands and knees playing with the kids. Like I want the dad who's excited to come home at the end of the day, to come sit at the dinner table with all of our family surrounding it. Like I don't want to be that family that's just like so fractured almost.
Yeah, and you never know until you're in it. So to be able to get in it and see for yourself instantly,
like I could see what kind of dad you were before we got married, you know? Like whereas if I had just met you and we just got married, I would never know if you were going to be that dad or not, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I think
it's like a sneak peek.
Yeah, and I think there are probably tons of relationships that are like really good up until the point where you start having kids, and then
turn sour.
Yeah, things start to go bad just because having kids does change you.
Yeah,
it needs it to, or hopefully it changes you.
Yeah, I would love to look at like the rate of divorce comparatively of like couples who were together for several years, got married, had kids, and then they end up getting divorced, versus couples who had a kid before getting married and then got married. Because I don't know, like I have nothing to prove this. I would have to look at stats, but I feel like the divorce rate would be lower for people who went into it with children already and like already had those conversations before they got married of like expectations around parenting and raising kids and all of those things. It feels like it's probably a little bit more ironed out than like just blindly jumping in and being like, oh wait, hold up, wait a second, you know? You're already in too deep to like be like, wait a second, I want you to be more involved with the kids. Like he's just like, no, I'm going golfing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I would assume the same, that it's probably lower, because again, just like you both see it, you're able to hopefully say like, this is or isn't working, and if it's not working, you know, get out before marriage and things get too serious on that front.
I have really appreciated like obviously your place in our life now as a family, of like you being such a good father figure and like truly just his dad, like the only dad he's ever known and will ever know. I think it's been so helpful, especially now that I stay home with him and I'm a stay-at-home mom all day long. I feel like you know, coming in the mornings, kind of taking over the morning shift so that I can, you know, wake up, start my day on a good foot and like be in a good headspace, because I feel like when I wake up and I get started on the right foot, like a slow morning, I'm able to make breakfast, I'm able to get a workout in, like it just sets us up for success. Me and our toddler have a really good day when we started off that way, which I think in return makes you have a good day, because you know that we're taken care of. You can focus on your work all day long. I take care of everything with him in the house, have dinner ready on the table, and then you come home and then we have our family time together. So I feel like you kind of take the early mornings with our son. I have him all day long, and then at nighttime, evenings, like after 4 p.m., that's like our family time together. I feel like we've gotten in a really good little routine of that, which I really, really love.
Yeah, I love our daily routine. And, you know, being a good dad is one of, if not the most important thing in my life. Like, thing I care about most. And I saw a stat, dads spend on average 62 minutes with their kids a day.
That's so sad.
And whether that is the reality of it, and I'm sure it's somewhat close.
No, I would 100% guess if that was true.
That, like, even if that is your position, like, even if you are working a lot and whatever, like, make sure that 62 minutes is, like, the best 62 minutes of your day and his day.
I've always said, like, I would rather live in the small house, not drive a fancy car, like, have my husband home for dinner every single night, than to have the husband who's working until 9 p.m. at night, who's traveling for work, who's never home, just so that we can have nicer things. Yeah. Like things just like don't matter to me at all. And I think you know this now. Like I'm just not, like I don't care. Like I've never owned a designer purse. I've never cared about like having fancy like luxury things. Like for me, it is so much more important to have family time. Like I'd rather take a trip together as a family. Like I'd rather be a stay-at-home mom so that I can stay home and raise our kids, rather than like we could both be working full time, right? And put our kids in daycare. And I'm sure we'd be way more financially well off. You know, like we could have the fancy cars and go to Europe and do all these things. But for me, like, it would just not be worth the trade-off. Like, it is just so important to me to, like you said, be an involved, good parent, stay home with our kids, like have that family time, like have my husband home for dinner every single night and have that like family unit as well.
There's a concept, idea, whatever you want to call it, that I love of hidden versus observable metrics, where everybody, kind of optimizes for the observable metrics, as in, the higher salary, the better title, the bigger house, the better car. Those are things you can see, versus the hidden metrics of what everybody claims they want, whether it's true or not, of spending more time with your kid, spending more time with your family, the things that actually matter or should actually matter in life. And we trade off these observable metrics. We work harder, we do all these things for this somewhere in the future, like time where I can have that free time and spend more time with my family. But like, you can actually do that now if you actually optimize for the hidden metrics. It's so crazy,
like people's priorities, like they will work themselves to death so that they can pay for their kid to go to college, right? They're like, oh, I want to have this college fund so my kid can go to college, like pay for it. And it's like they think that they're, which I'm not knocking that and saying that they're not doing something for their child, but they think that they're like really setting their child up for success, when in reality, your child would much rather have you home every night at dinner. Like that would benefit your child in their emotional, social development, and just like their childhood experience of like having their parents be home and involved. It like far trumps having college paid for, right? Like a student loan, big deal, right? I feel like the trade-off is just so much more important to set your child up emotionally rather than having like physical things, because I feel like these kids are anxious, they're depressed, they have all of these issues, and it's like, whoopee, like college is paid for, but you literally are estranged from your parents by the age of 20. Like you cut all ties with them, you have no relationship, and you have this very, very sad outlook on life of like not believing in love, not even wanting to have a family or kids because you feel so like emotionally depleted and you never had that true connection and like emotional growth that children need. Like they need present parents, right? They need people to pour into them, more so than they need the newest iPhone, right? I just think that like people's priorities are so messed up where they think like money buys happiness for their children. Like they think like, oh, I'll just throw gifts at my kids, I'll buy them the newest thing, we'll go on the nicest vacations, I'll pay for all of these things. When in reality, like that's not what kids need. They want connection, right? They don't need all of these fancy things that you think are important. Yeah,
kid has no idea if you're going to a 5-star luxury resort or a beach down the road. Like it's all the same to them. There's a quote, just to that point, a quote I love that I saw the other day is just the best inheritance a kid can get is emotional stability.
Literally,
right? Well beyond money in a bank account or anything else. It's like they are emotionally secure in themselves, they're going to do much better out in the world on their own when that time comes.
And I feel like I can even attest to that because like I did not grow up wealthy. I did not, like my parents did not in any way, like they've never given me a dime in my adult life. And even before, so like I started working when I was 13 years old babysitting, and I feel like I've like paid my way. Like I've always paid my own phone bill. They told me I could have a cell phone as soon as I could pay the monthly bill. So when I was 15, I started working so that I could buy my own phone and pay my own phone bill. And so I think that like instilling that in your children and not just handing them everything is important too. And I feel like I grew up so self-confident. So like I've never struggled with anxiety. I've never struggled with depression. Like I've never had any of these like emotional issues or felt detached. I think because I did have like the trade-off of like I had a stay-at-home mom. Like my mom always made the sacrifice of staying home with us, being there for us anytime that we needed. And then my dad as well was home for dinner every single night. Like we had a family dinner every single night at 6 p.m. Those were one of my favorite childhood memories. It wasn't fancy vacations. It wasn't gifts that they gave me. It wasn't like anything that I could tangibly touch. Like I don't even remember the gifts I got for my birthdays. Like there are very few like really strong memories I have of my childhood. And it's always being at the dinner table with my entire family surrounding it, and my dad giving us like some life lecture, like giving us some life lesson, telling us stories from his childhood and from his family, and like just like having real conversations. Like I will never forget when I was probably 14 or 15, there was a girl in our hometown who got pregnant. She was like a teenager, and her family was very religious, and they like exiled her. They like kicked her out and were like, you're not part of our family anymore. Like basically just like shamed her and we're like, we're done with you. Like you made this choice. Like you made your bed, lay in it. And I remember sitting down at dinner and my dad kind of just sitting there with us girls because we had three daughters, and just being like kind of telling the story. Like, I know you guys have all heard what happened with this so-and-so's family. Like really sad. Obviously, she got pregnant. She's a teenager. I remember him sitting there with like tears in his eyes and being like, I hope you girls all know that a baby is always a blessing. No matter what happens, no matter what mistakes you make, we will celebrate that life. We will always be here for you. We will never kick you out. We will never make you feel shamed. Like, we love you so much. And if you ever were to make a mistake or get put in a position like that, just know that like we will be here for you. And I think that conversation did 1,000 times more for me as a teenager to be careful, not sleep with people, not put myself ever in a position to make that mistake than a shaming conversation about you guys better never do that. You guys know better than that. Like, you guys need to, be pure and all of these things. Like, the route of love that like radically my dad took on that stance of like, we would never kick you out. We would never, like, we would love that baby. We would raise that baby. We would help you in any way that we could. To me, that put more of the fear in me of like, I love my parents and I know that they would do anything for me, but I'm never going to put them in that position. And I feel like that's always been a lesson that I took of like, that's how I want to raise my kids. Like, I want them to know like that they are so deeply loved. Like, any mistake they make, I will always be right there to help pick them up. And I think having that love and support makes you want to be a better person. It makes you not want to trip and fall. I think that it does so much more than any sort of discipline and any sort of scare tactics ever would.
My parents were kind of like 50-50 on scare and love. And I know whenever it was the scare tactics, like, one, it didn't stop me. Two, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, like, this made me want to rebel.
Yeah, it makes you want to just rebel against it.
Yeah, you're the rebellious teenager that you just want to do what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so whenever things are like strictly like, do not ever do this or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just somewhat natural to
you
want to go against that. Yeah, to go against that.
So our relationship was very fast paced, as a lot of you know. We met last September, moved in to live together mid-December, late December, lived together for 5 months. And then in May, we just recently got engaged. So pretty quick right off the jump. I think it was like 8 months into dating that we got engaged, probably, right? 8 months. Yeah. Obviously, a very fast timeline for some people is a red flag. Personally, for me, I knew that I wanted to have a quicker timeline. When I did meet the right person and we did start dating, like, I was like, get the show on the road because I want to have more kids and a big family. And I never wanted my son to be like so much older than my other kids. Like, I would hate if he was like 6 years old before I had another baby, because I don't want him to feel like he's not part of the family unit. Like, that's my biggest fear, is for him to feel like left out almost, or feel different than the other kids and part of the family. So for me, it's always been a goal of mine to have kids closer in age to him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's 2 now. He just turned 2. So by the time we get married and start to have a baby, I'm sure he'll be at least 4 years old, which that's not a crazy gap. I feel like 4 years is fine. Mm-hmm. But I definitely was kind of like wanted things to move quickly just because we are in that space. And I think even moving in together so quickly, people had a lot of opinions about that. But for me, it was kind of like, we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. There's no difference if we live together now or we wait a year, we wait 5 years. Like, it really didn't make that big of a difference to me, knowing that at that point I knew that you were the person I was going to marry and spend my life with. But from your point of view, like, what did you think about the progression of our relationship and like the timing wise?
I think, again, this is kind of where having no past relationship or to like think about anything from was beneficial. To the point I said earlier, is like, I wanted to move fast too. Like I said, I'm 32. I'm no spring chicken. Yeah. And so like, I wanted to start having kids and everything as soon as possible. Yes, it did go faster than, I originally was expecting, but everything has just felt so natural along the way. Like, and just how the timing had played out of everything. Again, just kind of things fell into place to time out the way they have. It's just been one thing after another of just like, does this feel right? Yes. Okay. Let's not.
I agree. It has felt just so easy, like so effortless. Like, I've never felt rushed. And I feel like you also checked in with me like every step along the way of just being like, if I proposed to you in the next 6 months, like, would you feel comfortable? Like, what's your expectation? And just like having those conversations of like, not you just pushing me along, right? Or steamrolling over what I would feel comfortable with. Like, you were very good about checking in on my boundaries, making sure we are on the same page, making sure we had the same goals, and like we were both on the same timeline, which I really appreciated. I think that's like something that's probably more important, especially if you are moving fast, is just like definitely to check in and make sure that nobody gets like lost kind of in the current.
Yeah, and I think in regards to the moving in, that was what, 3.5 months or so.
Yeah, it was quick.
Which is obviously very quick. My two thoughts on it were, one, like, what were we really gonna do? Two different locations for a year if you moved in by yourself somewhere else.
Pay two rents.
Pay two rents.
Drive back and forth.
You driving over 3 days, me driving over there 3 days, or I didn't even have a car.
Especially with the dog, like it would be so tricky.
Yeah, it would just be a lot of unneeded stress and extra work on the relationship than was needed.
Yeah. And obviously, ideally, like I would have wished it was a little bit later on. Like I wish we had been dating for like 6 months and then moved in, but that's just not the way that things lined up with our leases and everything. So it was kind of like we were put in this position where it was like the path was divided and we had to choose one way or the other. Like either we wait until we've been dating for a year and a half to live together, or we just move in after 3 months. Like that was kind of the decision we had to make. And now looking back, I think we 100% made the right decision.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Without it, I couldn't imagine where we would be at this point if we didn't make that decision then.
Yeah. Because I think living together also kind of cemented the fact that we were ready to get engaged and get married, because like living together for the past 5 or so 6 months, I think just like even just the big part you've played in the day-to-day life of like raising Gray. Like I can't imagine if we lived in 2 different households how you would be such an involved father figure to him, because it's like pop in, pop out. Like I truly believe like you have to live under the same roof to be able to really be involved in the parenting, like in the day-to-day.
Yeah, that was going to be my second point was, I felt ready to be a father, but like until you're actually fully in it, you never really know. And so, would kind of rather figure that out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And like, am I really ready to take on everything that it is? And now that I know that I am, and it's been amazing. And I couldn't imagine, seeing him again 4 nights a week at night for a couple hours.
I feel like we definitely like played well with the cards we were dealt. Like we had a certain set of circumstances and we just like made it work. Would I ever give the advice to another single mom to date somebody, move in after 3 months and get engaged 8 months later? No, that would never be my advice, because what I've said before and what I will always say is like my relationship is our own, right? Mm-hmm. You are not their boyfriend. You are not their fiance. I am not them. They are not me. Like every set of circumstances is so different. And for some people, like, yeah, that might be love bombing. Like he may not be a good person if he's trying to force you into, oh, let's get engaged after 5 months. Like let's move in after 2 months. Like sometimes there are a certain set of people who steamroll you into those decisions. But I think for me, and people ask me like, how did you know it wasn't love bombing? For me, the difference was you weren't just saying these things. You weren't making these grand promises. It was all in the quiet actions that you were taking. Like you weren't just saying like, oh, I want to marry you. Oh, you're the love of my life. Oh, we're going to be together forever. You were like, what size? Like, let's go try on engagement rings. Like, I want to know what you want for engagement. Like asking me like, if I propose in the next 6 months, would you say yes? Do you feel comfortable? Like you were taking all of these small actions instead of with love bombing. I think a lot of it is like they make all of these huge promises and then nothing ever comes to fruition, right? Mm-hmm. So I think like that's the difference. And then also it truly is just a gut feeling. Like there have been people that I've been with that are like, oh my gosh, you're perfect for me. You're the love of my life. And it's like you get this weird feeling in your gut of like, this doesn't feel sincere. And it also feels like too much. Like you almost feel like, okay, I can't breathe. Like relax. Where with you, it never felt that way. Like it always was so easy. It always was so like, it just felt right, And like, even with all the decisions that we made, moving our relationship so quickly, I never felt steamrolled. I never felt like you were trying to rush me into something or push me into something that I didn't feel comfortable with. I feel like every decision in our relationship we made together as a team.
I feel the same way. That big decisions can be made with like one person, bringing, kind of dragging the other person along rather than walking it together. Where I felt the entire time, every big decision and even small decisions as well, we've been kind of hand in hand going out together and both fully on the same page.
It's just tricky because every love bombing narcissistic relationship moves fast, but not every relationship that moves fast is love bombing narcissism. Like, and I think that's what people kind of get caught up on is like, do narcissists do that? Yes. Is that what love bombing looks like sometimes? Yes. But just because your relationship moves quickly or you're sure you're in a place where you are ready for that does not mean that that's the case. And I think that's what's tricky for people, is to kind of separate the two and realize, like, just because your relationship moves quickly, just because you're ready and you're intentionally dating, because that's another thing. Like, when you're intentionally dating for marriage, it should move quickly. Like, you should not be dating for over 2 years if you are being intentional. And that's just like a fact of the matter. Growing up and being Catholic, which I was raised most of my life, we were always taught that, like, you date for marriage. Like, you don't have a boyfriend unless that is somebody who you are seeking to marry. And I think that that's like such an important thing to teach your children, because nowadays everyone's like, oh, just have a boyfriend to have a boyfriend. Oh, just have this relationship. And then you end up wasting so much of your time and emotional energy invested into somebody who is not a forever thing. And I truly don't think that's the way it's meant to be. Like, the casual dating is just like, people get literal soul ties with these people that are not a forever thing. And it's so, so painful. I feel like intentional dating really protects your heart and stops you from having to go through that. So, like, even though obviously you did not do it on purpose, like, you weren't intentionally trying to save yourself for marriage per se, because you didn't think that you'd get married or have a family. But in a roundabout way, I do think that you did it the right way, of like, wait until you are at a point where you are truly ready to get married and have a family before you even seek out a relationship.
Yeah. And, there's levels to why I never dated, but to that exact point is, like, I knew that dating should lead to marriage. And if I didn't want to commit to that, I didn't want to drag a girl along with me.
Yeah.
And so that was always top of mind. And I think to the same point of, like, just feeling secure in yourself, feeling secure enough in yourself to be able to move fast in a relationship and feel comfortable with it, is also being not necessarily alone, but like not being in a relationship for a long time, to not feel like you need somebody else to be happy in your own life, and you're able to build something together rather than find somebody who fills in the cracks of yourself, and you fill in the cracks of them.
That's advice I give too for moms who are single and dating. I always tell them, like, truly take the time to heal and be okay being alone. Like, you have to be in the mindset of, like, if I don't meet the right person, I will so happily stay alone and be content, just me and my child, for the rest of my life. I think a lot of single moms get in the mindset of, like, oh, things didn't work out with my husband, divorce. Things didn't work out with my baby daddy, now I'm single. Like, I need to immediately find a new father figure for my child. Or I need to immediately, like, level up and, like, get a new man. Like you need to go and, like, upgrade and, like, find a new man. And that is so damaging, not only to them, because obviously they haven't fully healed. Like, when you are in an unhealed place, especially when you've been done dirty, you've been cheated on, your baby daddy left you, like, whatever caused you to be in this position as a single mom, like, you went through something traumatic. You went through something painful. And I think to go into a new relationship with those open wounds is so, so damaging, because you're not the best healed version of yourself. You're going to attract a love that is not healing, that is not fulfilling, that is not meant to be, because you're not in a good place. Like, I truly think that when you are unhealed and you're in a broken place, you're going to attract other broken people. And I think that's where a lot of these women end up having 2 baby daddies, 3 baby daddies, like divorced a second time, because they jump straight into a new relationship without dealing with the baggage. Like you said, they're trying to fill a hole. They're trying to fix a wound that truly you have to do the self-work. You have to be alone for a while, I think, to be in a good place. And it's different for everybody. Like, some people are fine after 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Some people need a year or 2 to really truly get into a good place mentally, and a good place and just a good space to date and to really put themselves out there. So I'm not here to tell people, like, oh, this is the amount of time that you need to wait. But I truly, truly, truly think that it is such a disservice to jump from one relationship to another without taking the time to heal, especially when kids are involved, because that's when it gets so tricky. Like, you're letting another person into these children's lives. Like, you were the only person who's ever met Gray. So I was very, very intentional about not having people come in and out of my son's life. Like, until I met the person who I knew would be a forever thing, I told myself, like, I am not introducing my son. So, like, even the people that I dated, like 7 dates, 8 dates, like before I met you, they never met my son, because it didn't feel right. Like, I never felt like this was a forever person. And so I think that, being intentional about protecting your children, not letting them meet every random man that comes into your life, and just, like I said, like, truly taking the time to heal and be alone, like, that is always the advice I give a single mom who comes to me and is, like, starting to date. I'm like, just truly make sure you are in a good place and healed, and be so intentional and date for marriage, because I truly don't think you can go wrong. Like, when you have the mindset of, like, is this somebody who I would marry? Is this somebody who I want raising my child? Like, you have to go in with such a good mindset. Otherwise, like, you are going to attract the crappy guys, unfortunately.
Yeah. And again, from the guy's perspective, you have to go into it feeling secure enough in yourself. Because again, you're not the priority for the most part. And if you are insecure and like need constant validation, it's not going to go well. You're going to feel bad throughout it. And then that's just going to.
And that's on being healed as well. Like anybody who goes into a relationship with those wounds of like being insecure, needing validation, like not being fully healed, like whether it's a man or a woman, like that relationship's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be toxic. Like you're never going to feel fulfilled by that person because they're not the issue, right? It's within yourself. You have to work through those things, unfortunately. So I do really appreciate the balance that we have as parents. I feel like I just could not have hoped for a better fit, truly.
I agree. I think that we fit kind of perfectly where we each give him what he needs in different ways at different times.
Yeah. And like I said, like early in our relationship, you had read a parenting book that I had just like offhandedly mentioned. And in the book, it talks about something they call, I think it's called Hige, maybe? Hige? I don't know how you say it, but essentially it's like a togetherness that Danish people always make a priority in their families. And it's like a time for connection, whether it's, you know, like all being around the bonfire, or singing songs, or sitting on the living room playing games at night, or reading books together. Like it's just like prioritizing that family time and that connection, because it's so important to have that secure connection within your children, because that's relationship between parent and child. Like that's the first relationship that sets the foundation for every other relationship in your life. So whether it's, you know, relationships with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or friendships, like when you have that solid foundation of connection and like a secure attachment, it sets that child up for success. So the relationship that you have with your child, like it's either going to set them up for success with all their future relationships, or it's going to be something they're going to have to actively work against and like unlearn. So for me, it's always been like a very big priority to feel very securely attached to my child, to be home with them, for them not to be ripped away from me for 8 hours a day at daycare. You know, like that's such a difficult thing. And I know a lot of women don't have a choice, but for those of us who can make the sacrifices to stay home and who do have a choice to, you know, maybe quit that job to be home with their children, I do think it is so, so important, because like there are genuinely more narcissists and narcissistic behavior in people than ever before. I feel like this is like a new phenomenon, and part of it I think is because of those insecure attachments with parents and children, like the lack of emotional support, the lack of connection, which I feel like you have to invest just as much in their emotional health and their mental health as you do in their physical health. Like you take them to all their doctor appointments, like you make sure they have clean, dry clothes, you change their diaper, you do all these things on the physical side, but I feel like people really neglect the emotional well-being of their children, I would say.
Yeah, and beyond relationships with other people, I would say letting your child have a good relationship with him or herself.
Yeah, with themselves.
And like that comes from feeling loved and spending that good quality time. And again, like if you don't have a good relationship with yourself and you're insecure about yourself and just have struggle with self-worth or whatever, maybe like that is what's going to lead to bad relationships and just bad behavior in general.
Yeah.
And being able to provide your child all the love and care that they need in order to feel secure in themselves, to be able to go out into the world and not people please or not feel like they need to just, you know, do things that they don't want to do in order to have relationships with people that deep down they probably don't even want to have relationships with, but they just want that approval. Yeah,
so true. So you kind of have a presence online as well, which is something I wanted to touch on. You do a lot of health and fitness content on TikTok and Instagram, and you're also a health coach by trade. So I wanted to have you kind of talk a little bit more about what got you into that, and what all you do with that career.
Yeah, so I've been health and fitness coach now for 3 years, a little over 3 years. After quitting my corporate job that I did for 6 years before that, which I just hated. The corporate life was not for me and would have gone crazy if I never made a change. And so health and fitness was something that I always loved. And so it was kind of an easy transition in the sense of like, it was something I had expertise in that I felt comfortable I could help people with. And so was able to just, and like had helped people unofficially, just like as a friends and family. most of my adult life, just because it was something I've always loved. But was also something that I've struggled with at times, kind of on both ends of the spectrum of being way too strict about my health and lying to friends and family about things I'm doing so I don't have to go out to eat with them and eat at a unhealthy
Yeah,
restaurant,
like taking it too far.
taking it way too far, working out 3 to 4 hours a day every single day, and just like I got like very lean, had a six pack abs, and I could see that, and like still didn't like the way I looked, and still didn't think it was good enough,
Yeah.
and so that was to the extreme. But then also went to the other extreme after I went through that, and just like burn out from all of that. Took it the other way and then gained 60 pounds back just by binge eating terrible food and everything.
Yeah.
And so the health side of things, again, even though it's something I've loved, it is something I've struggled with
Yeah.
at points in my life. So I feel like I'm able
It
to.
hasn't come easy to you.
Yeah, definitely hasn't come easy. It's been a lot of battles of like, I don't know if self-worth, but just like self-love, I guess.
Yeah.
Like at first it was needing to look a certain way that I was never going to be happy with. Then it was like self-love through overconsumption of food. And so again, nothing that has come easy, just naturally, but again, something I've always loved. So I feel like I can help people that do struggle one way or the other because I've gone through that
You've been
myself.
there.
But then also just have the love for health and fitness, athlete my entire life. Growing up, played every sport just about imaginable. Went to college to play football. Now I do ultra marathons, Ironmans, that type of stuff. Always pushing myself physically because I'd love to, and I think you build a lot of character through it.
Yeah.
But again, it's something that has been a battle, so I can help people kind of on both ends
Navigate it.
Yeah.
Who's your ideal client, would you say? Like what demographic, age, sex? Like who do you kind of seek out, would you say, is your like niche of clientele that you help?
Yeah, I would say nowadays, where whenever I was first starting out, I was kind of like just anybody and everybody, just because I wanted to get my business off the ground, and
Yeah.
I can help everybody, I feel. But like, if I'm looking at my exact ideal client, is kind of someone like myself, early 30s, or just 30s, maybe early 40s, and maybe somewhat athletic back and then, played high school sports, maybe college sports, but life happens. They have some kids and just like they don't feel like they have time. They stopped working out, stopped focusing on their health, and so they've kind of just slowly gains 20, 30, maybe up to 50 pounds over the last 10 years or so. And so they're just looking to kind of get back on track, but again, feel like they don't have a lot of time to spend an hour in the gym every single day, which you don't have to do in order to feel and look great. And so it's helping busy people that have a lot going on, to get awesome workouts in, start losing weight, getting fit, whatever their specific goal is, but helping people realize that it doesn't take this grand effort in order to have awesome results.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that's so helpful for a lot of people because nowadays everything is so go, 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 especially once you have children. You can feel like pulled in a million different ways. So it's really great to have somebody who understands that, and especially now you're living it. Like you have a toddler that you're a father figure to, and that you're kind of taking on that role of being a parent, right? You definitely have a good perspective to give other parents of like you can still carve out that time to take care of your health.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, like being a good dad is one of, if not the most important things that I care about. And I believe like every dad should be fit. Like, you're what sets the tone for the family, health wise.
Lead by example.
And like if your kid and your wife see you just laying on the couch and not taking care of your health, then why would they have any different thought for themselves? So you're not just getting healthy for yourself, you're getting healthy for the rest of your family. And then also just like from a very practical standpoint, like I don't know, do you want to not be tired after you're playing with your kid for an hour? Do you want to be able
have
to
the energy?
Have the energy after 8 hours to come home, 8 hours of work,
but also just like the length of your life, like you know, bone density, things like that. Like for your old age, like you want to feel active. You don't want to be, a cripple. Like you want to be healthy and be able to see your grandchildren and be on the floor playing with them at that age.
There's two very different levels of being 60, 70 years old. I know some 60, 70-year-old who are awesome and still going to the gym 3-4 days a week and
Yeah.
walking 5 miles every single day, then there's some 60, 70-year-olds who can barely even walk without them, by
Yeah, a
themselves.
walker and stuff.
And obviously there's some things that happen that are potentially outside of your control, but a lot of that stuff is very much in your
Set
control.
yourself up for success.
Yeah. Thinking about it again, just beyond yourself. Like, you've tried to lose weight, get fit for yourself for the past 10 years and it hasn't worked. Let's maybe
do it for your family.
Let's maybe stop thinking about yourself and do it for your family.
Yeah. Out of the two of us in our family, who do you think who's healthier, more health conscious?
I mean, if that's an honest question, I would have to say myself.
Yeah.
But
you're definitely a big influence on our family for sure, of like making good choices and being active.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
But I do think we are a good match where, even though I said I've had struggles where I've done way too much, I still definitely lean that way.
Yeah.
That I can get in mindsets of everything needs to be perfect every single day.
Yeah.
Where
I'm much more lax. I'm like kind of 60-40, I feel like, and you're more like 90-10. So I feel like we end up with an 80-20 lifestyle for our family, but I'm more so like, I'm craving a burger. Like, I'm going to make us burgers, but I'll make them homemade, like from scratch and everything. And you're like, I don't know. Like, of course, I'm not going to be like, let's go to McDonald's. Like, I'm not a bad influence in that way, but I think I'm much more like, when your body's craving something, usually it's for a reason. Like, comfort foods are important too. I think that you can't just constantly 100% of the time, because I think that's also why people fail, is like they force themselves to be on 100% of the time, where it's like, you got to have some off days, you got to have a couple fun meals mixed in there. Otherwise, like, why is life even worth living? Like, why are we getting so healthy and taking good care of ourselves to live these long lives if we're not going to also enjoy them?
A burger is a very healthy meal if you cook it at home.
Yeah.
And so it's like, any non-healthy food can be healthy pretty much if you
make it with good ingredients,
make it yourself with good ingredients, and just take that little bit of extra effort, where again, if you kind of take, like anything else, take the easy way out of just ordering out. Again, is it the worst thing in the world?
Yeah.
There's a lot of worse options.
Which, even so, I think we try to make good choices. Like, we're not at McDonald's, right? We'll like go to Chick-fil-A, get some grilled nuggets, like some French fries. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I think it is just like always making the good choices, even within the days off, of like, maybe we'll have like ice cream tonight as a family, but like, we're not going to have burgers and ice cream, like a million treats at once.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we pick and choose, like, oh yeah, like we'll go have a treat tonight.
Yeah. Moderation
For sure.
I think you bring us back to reality a little bit, where again, it feels fully up to me. And when it was just me, like, I would be
eating ground hamburger for every meal.
Pretty much, yeah. Ground hamburger and some veggies, or some chicken and veggies. Like, it was very just a steak and potatoes, or chicken and potatoes.
Yeah. I'm making us like steak tacos and like fun stuff.
My quality of eating has increased maybe by
branching out your palate a little bit.
100x since we've moved in together.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you for coming on today. This was fun to have you as my first guest.
A lot of pressure. I think I did
no
okay.
pressure. And this will definitely not be the last time we have you on as well. So if you guys have any additional questions for Nick that we did not cover, happy to have him back on in a couple episodes to answer some more and chat a little bit more. But this felt like we always just yap together, so this felt no different. I feel like the only difference is like maybe I gave you more talking time, where usually you do more of the listening.
I would say definitely talked more today than typical.
Than usual.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, guys, for another episode of Yappy Hour. You guys are getting 2 episodes this week because of the holiday. We're going to push this one back a little bit, so you may be getting 2 episodes in 1 week, which exciting for you guys. But thank you again for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to yap and chat, and hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. But thank you for watching, and we will see you very, very soon.
Goodbye.